Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
It's the first change in the Warren mayor's office in a decade and a half. For the first time, a woman is leading Michigan's third largest city. Glad you're with us tonight for Local 4 News at 6. I'm Devin Skillion.
I'm Kimberly Gill. Lori Stone has officially taken over for Jim Fouts, whose 16-year tenure as mayor certainly had its share of controversy. Local 4's Will Jones spoke with Stone at her ceremonial swearing in just a couple of hours ago. Will joins us live in Warren tonight. Good evening.
Kimberly and Devin, Mayor Lori Stone is a former state representative and teacher. She's ready to put to use what she learned in those roles here, heading Michigan's third largest city.
I, Lori Marie Stone.
Minutes before Lori Stone's public swearing-in ceremony, we spoke with her one-on-one. You have a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. I am so thankful this Thanksgiving. I'm counting my blessings.
Stone, a former state representative and teacher, is the first woman to serve as mayor of Warren.
It is a huge responsibility. I think of all the women who have helped pave the way. Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge facing Warren?
The biggest challenge facing Warren for me is trust in local government. We've seen that eroded over the years as government in general, but we also see that there's been divisiveness. And our community wants to know that their leaders will work together to make the community a better place to live, work, and play.
Longtime Warren voter Carl Hindley is excited about having new leadership after having the same mayor for the past 16 years, Jim Fouts.
As a former teacher myself, you got to learn how to play well with others. She's going to do that here in Warren. She's going to make everybody work together on the same page, pulling on the same rope in the same direction.
Congratulations, Madam Mayor.
I also asked Stone how would she measure success, and she says quality of life, anything that makes life easier for residents. It's important to mention that Stone was not the only one to make history this past election in Warren. Melanie McGee became the first black woman to be elected to city council. We are live in Warren tonight. Will Jones, Local 4.
Okay, Will, we appreciate it. Thank you.
A Detroit man is facing several charges after a police chase and shooting that shut down part of I-94 last Thursday at the start of rush hour. Chase began in Warren. It led to a wild scene on the freeway in Detroit as a police officer opened fire, hitting the driver in the arm. 26-year-old Michael Adkins was released from the hospital and was healthy enough to face charges today for fleeing, assault, and assault with a dangerous weapon. That last one, by the way, is because he allegedly used his car as a weapon against other vehicles. Adkins is held on $500,000 cash bond.
Workers at 2 of the 3 Detroit casinos voted in favor of a new contract. It ended their strike. So now only MGM workers voted no, and their walkout continues. UAW members who have been off the job the longest, Blue Cross Blue Shield workers who hit the picket line in mid-September. Now the cold is settling in. So what's next? We get Sean Lay live downtown where there seems to be no end in sight. Sean.
And to this wind now kicking up as we get used to the cold weather coming in, guys. We were with the Blue Cross Blue Shield workers when they first went on strike. It was sunny and warm, and since then, mid-September, they have watched the UAW go on strike and settle and get a deal. They have watched 2 of the 3 Detroit casinos get a deal and an offer and voted yes. 1 voted no so far, but they have not even gotten an offer to say no to yet, and there's no end in sight to what's going on here.
It's so hard.
Blue Cross Blue Shield worker Jessica Graham says by voting to strike, she thought that would help broker a deal and she would not be on the picket line. But now she and her union co-workers have been walking the picket line since October 2nd with no end in sight. With $500 a week strike pay, what is the biggest challenge right now?
I guess getting mortgage together, trying to pay that. And then I was
Have you missed any or anything? Is it getting close?
Getting close.
That's very stressful.
Yeah. Especially when, you're only making so much during strike pay.
Blue Cross Blue Shield workers were the first of the UAW to go on strike. Since then, they have been out here and they watched the UAW and the Big 3 come to an agreement to end their strikes. They watched 2 of Detroit's 3 casinos approve an offer to end their strikes. But it remains quiet and cold outside of Blue Cross Blue Shield offices, and it's only going to get colder. Cornell Qualls works in customer service and is a union leader. That's what I wanted to ask you. You guys went out, the sun was shining. Right. It's cold today. It's only going to get colder. Right. Does that have any impact on this?
I don't think so, because if you're fighting for a cause, you'll stand on your principles. The weather doesn't matter to me because it's about what's right and making sure that everybody gets what they deserve.
My first hope was seeing the autos settled, and then
Now casinos have settled 2 of 3.
Yeah,
And so you're still out here.
still out here. We're the first to go and wait. And I made a joke like we're gonna be like the actor strike, just like it's never gonna end.
Big picture here, guys. MGM workers there, they did get an offer to vote on yesterday. They voted it down. They're going to go back to the drawing board. Here, Blue Cross Blue Shield has never gotten an offer since they went out. They are told the negotiations continue, but they are out here hearing very little as it's getting colder and colder. Back to you.
Hey, Sean, we appreciate it.
An unnamed respiratory illness is spreading among dogs, and the cause is a mystery tonight.
Yeah, the symptoms are listed as coughing, sneezing, nasal and/or eye discharge. It's described as a long-lasting respiratory disease that can also cause pneumonia. So clearly, this is really very serious.
And the illness has been reported now in 10 states. The closest here, not that far away, Indiana and Illinois. And joining us live with some advice for dog owners is the owner of Arbor Point Veterinary Hospital in Canton, and that's Dr. Michael Petty. Dr. Petty, really appreciate your time. It's not confirmed in Michigan, as I just mentioned. It's close, so I'm wondering if the best advice is to just act and assume as though the illness is already here.
I think that's really good advice. And here's why. Because, you know, as a general practitioner veterinarian, we see a lot of respiratory illnesses all the time. And, you know, we don't always know. We don't have the ability to do a quick diagnosis and know it's caused by this or that.
Yeah.
And there's at least a dozen of them out there. So when a dog comes in and it's acting sick, you probably, in light of this new emerging disease, should take it very seriously.
Well, you mentioned there are 12 of them out there, respiratory illnesses you're speaking of. How often, though, do you hear about an illness like this where it doesn't even have a name and the cause is unknown?
Right. This is pretty new. I mean, occasionally something will pop up and it turns out to be, you know, one of our old foes that we have treated in the past. However, this is epidemiologist in New Hampshire has been looking at this for a year and has been unable to identify it. They've been having cases in Oregon since August, and no one really knows.
And doctor, this disease, I guess, can take 3 different forms. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, you know, there's 3 forms, and luckily the most common form is this mild chronic problem that causes a cough and other respiratory signs, and it lasts for 8 weeks, give or take a little bit. The second one is a more chronic pneumonia issue, and the pneumonia just won't go away even with antibiotics. The third scariest one is a very acute, what we even call a peracute infection, where within 36 hours, dogs get pneumonia and some of them die. Luckily, this is the least common form of this disease.
Yeah. What can dog owners do to reduce the risk?
You know, I spoke with a representative at the Michigan Department of Agriculture, and she told me, make sure the dogs are vaccinated against everything else, just in case it's some variant of something we've seen before. But also, you don't want your dog having one illness on top of another. The other thing is use common sense. You know, this time of the year, you know, maybe avoid going indoors with your dog to places. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of us have to have dog daycare during the day.
Yep.
Consider in-home daycare. And if you can't, when you go to your dog daycare place, ask them each and every time you drop the dog off, has there been any complaints of respiratory diseases? And if there is, say, you know, not today.
Not today, yeah. That's a really good breakdown of it. Dr. Michael Petty of Arbor Point Veterinary Hospital in Canton, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Yep, really good information.
Thank you.
You bet.
Okay, let's turn things over to the weather now. And Kim Adams eyeing the Thanksgiving forecast. Beautiful shot of the tree there. Gets us in the holiday spirit for sure.
Got that all lit up Friday night, and now the holiday season's here. Kim?
Oh, that is really beautiful. It's chilly, but it's not super cold. I mean, if you want to come down and go ice skating or something like that, temperatures are in the 30s. It's 39 downtown, 38 in Mount Clemens, 35 in Pontiac and Lapeer, and 34 in Port Huron. It's a little colder than it was yesterday by about 8 degrees at the airport, 5 degrees at City Airport. We do have some rain out there. It's kind of knocking on the door. It will be here during the overnight hours, so you've got the next few hours where you're dry. It's raining in Chicago, also in Cincinnati, but what we're watching back here, this is attached to an area of low pressure, and it's causing some severe storms down to the south, right along northern parts of Louisiana, headed off to the northeast, and that rain is spilling into Metro Detroit, not just tonight, but also for most of the day tomorrow. We'll have heavy rain in the morning, tapering off in the afternoon, but we're getting our rain out of the way, so we set the stage for a pretty nice Thanksgiving. We'll talk about that forecast in a few minutes.